All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining for the Let's Sketch in weekly warm up. And in today's session, we will cover do as usual the warm up exercise, and then we will have topic on expressive typography, and we have amazing guest and participant of our community, Samir, who will be sharing with us different paper types that can be used for sketch notes. And towards the end, I'll give you some pointers on how to use expressive typography for atomic sketches. So for March, we have this challenge of doing only typography related sketch notes. So uh, maybe no sketches, but just experimenting with type and its shape, size, and all those things. So we'll see how it can be used. So to begin with, let's do the warm up exercise. Let's get our fingers warmed up. At any point of time, if you folks think that this is getting too formal, let me know. I don't want this to be like, hey, I'm doing this for recording and hence it has to be like go in certain way. Feel free to kind of interrupt me, stop me at any point of time. Let's follow the same style that we have been doing so far. So interestingly, in architecture, whenever we draw line, right, we keep our pen straight, like in same orientation, whether it is standing line or sleeping lines or slanted lines. In architecture, they are taught to rotate the pen or pencil while they are drawing that line, especially pencil, so that it retains or maintains the tip thickness of the pencil. So
Interesting.
if you see architects' lines, they might be wavy, but each line comes with uh, is drawn at the same thickness. So yeah, that's a new tidbit about drawing lines.
So while drawing, they will rotate it. Huh?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
So you can use no three of your fingers to rotate and no do the both the movements.
Yeah.
It takes practice, but yeah. And same thing as was done in Kabir Pradhan's class. It takes a lot of practice for them. So they are made to kind of draw sheets and sheets of paper, just drawing lines.
Yeah.
I've attended one doodling workshop, I think 3 years, 3 years now. Mamta Singh's. So they used to draw straight lines joining the newspapers. So they have to draw long straight lines.
Okay.
They join the newspaper and to make a big canvas and then do the straight lines.
Wow.
Also, while using the pigment pen, keep rotating the pen. Otherwise, the tip will get kind of slanted from one edge, and then you will have a kind of chipped edge, chiseled one.
I understood it after a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm recording this session. My thing is pinned.
It did tell it is being recorded. At least initially
It is
did.
being recorded. It's like
Yeah.
if you see it in the top left, you have that REC.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
It is there.
It was just that while it is recording, what will it record? Like audio, of course, is fine, but screen, what will it record? So, do you see my video like in proper orientation? Because I see
Yes.
it in like reversed flipped way.
Oh,
No, it is good.
it is
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now that we have done warm up, let's move on to expressive typography. So to begin with, what is expressive typography? Right? As the name suggests, if the text or expressing emotions or essence of the things using typography, um, when the type itself becomes an image. So yesterday we did one small, so I gave a prompt on Atomic Sketch like start, right? And then there were different things that were given, like Kanupriya, you drew A to have boots, and then I drew start as showing exponential growing. So what happens is it is no more a type or a text. It entire thing becomes like an image which kind of conveys something on its own. So start, if it was written just as plain blank, maybe it did not communicate the thing that it wants to, unless we kind of read it, process it on the brain, and then if the meaning of that is there within us, we will kind of interpret. But with expressive typography, the image itself can actually convey that meaning. So another way of doing that is, let's say start means slowly something is right, something like that. So it is stationary initially, and then towards the end it kind of is put in motion. So start, something like that. All right. I'll show some of the examples of expressive typography that can also be seen using if you search expressive typography. That's the simplest way that we can do. Okay, let me share my screen. Where is it? Share screen. Okay, can you see my screen shared?
Not, I mean, we are seeing still the warm-up page.
That camera.
Oh, okay. Right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I search for expressive typography and I see, by the way, today's prompt is bounce. So you get to see that, right? Reflection, if you see reflection is written and then the reflection of the word reflection is written, like in a symmetry way. Tie has some object of the tie which is converted as I. Happy, you will see that no, happy is shown as the text are kind of bouncing off, like what we do when we are happy, we bounce off and we raise our hand. Time, if you see, it's the arm of the clock that is shown. So basically using either different elements or by doing different shapes of the type, we can actually express what it is. You see exit, X is drawn in such a way that it looks like it is going to kind of run away. Same thing for hidden, I is not there, but it is shown by a negative space over there. So that's what expressive typography means. No, the word itself is self-explanatory. But when coming to doing expressive typography, there are different parameters that we can actually use to kind of create expressive typography. So I've listed down some parameters and I'll go through each one of them. But before that, let's practice some typographic styles that we can later reuse when we are applying those parameters. So when I say typographic styles, no, we can actually write a simple type. Let's say I'm writing my name. So single line type, right? And then I can do double line. So writing the same thing in faded manner or in very light manner, and then drawing a block of line or the border around that. Right. And then inside the space, we can actually scribble, add dots, or kind of make it a block, whatever we can do, right? So that again is something that we can use. Like fill it up with completely dark block color or something like that. So that's second. And third one is going with the same format, writing the letter and then adding one more stick to the standing line. On the left side. And for each, for maybe different letters, we can adopt different styles. So let's say for first one, I filled up half of it. For second one, I drew dashes. For third one, I drew dashes across all. Fourth one, I kept it blank. And fifth one, I kind of did a slant thing. So you see each letter, we followed the simple principle of just adding one line and then kind of filled it up in different ways. So in our expressive typography thing, we can use either of these type. If it is capital letter, same thing, we can experiment with small letters also. Right, simple type and then double line. You might ask, what do we do for S or O? So if you write O like that, then add a line inside. If it is S, add a line again inside that. Same thing for C. Okay, so now getting on to what are the different parameters that can be used for expressive typography. The first one is height. So we can experiment or we can use height of the text to express something like it was done in start. So each letter was using different height and that's how it gets expressed. Same thing, maybe if we have to write progress, I can actually use height to express progress. Now over here, I'm using a simple type, but we can use either of the ones that we discussed earlier. It can be block letter or it can be double line letter. right? Or you can also use a thick pen to kind of show progress. And it is not necessary that we change height of each letter. It can be relative height also. So let's say, oh, and then start. Okay, so height of two text blocks next to each other. All right, so height is one. Let me stop sharing. Yeah. Height is one. Second one is thickness. Right. And some of these prompts are going to come up, so you can reuse this thing. So thickness, as we saw earlier, was derived by using block letters. Okay. And we can actually make different thickness of the letter by changing the spacing between skeleton line and what we draw around it. So let's say if I have to write fade, I first write fade as a word and then apply different thickness to each letter so that it becomes thinner.
Kumar, that I think that portion is away from the camera.
sorry.
Yeah.
And then this one is complete block.
One question regarding heights. Can we have a different heights for different letters?
Oh yeah, if you see over here for start and progress, the height of each letter is different. So there is
Correct.
yeah, there is no rule as such of what we can have or not have. I'm just giving parameters that we can play around with. Those parameters not just apply to the letter, but it also applies to the text block or word, right? So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I would say take it as a general guideline rather than a rule set in stone. Okay, so fade, if you see over
Okay.
here, it was block and then the thickness reduced and then still the thickness reduced and then is like that. So it kind of shows that it is fading away, right? So thickness is second one. Then we have
Okay.
third, which is spacing, or in typography, it is also called as kerning.
And how do you spell it? K?
Kerning, kerning.
Okay. Yeah, I can.
Okay, so the relative space between the text block. So if I write space, in two different ways, same type, but different spacing between letters, right? And then I can relatively, so if I write return space like this, and then I write with a different height, right? It kind of communicates a different meaning relative to each other. So it's more like an experimentation between these different parameters that we put to use and then think of what we want to try to communicate. And I'll come to that in a minute. So first one was height, second one on thickness, third one on spacing. Now spacing, kerning is the space between letters, and spacing can be between words also, right? So like if I have to write near and far, near, I'll write next to each other, and then far like that. Only thing is we need to see that the spacing is not big enough relatively that it becomes difficult to kind of form a word out of that, right? So if you see space over here, if I had written space like right, if I look it from far, the space will look smaller, but if I look from near, it is too wide open and does not cover the page also. All right. Then the fourth one is white space, right? So this is related to space only, but it is related to the spacing around the text. So let's say normally in atomic sketches, and this is what I would recommend everybody to do is whenever we are, let's say we are doing atomic sketches, I would highly suggest that we draw a block first, and then we sketch inside that, so that we learn the the art of constraints. Like we have to draw anything within this only, and then everything, even the next one that we'll draw within that. So with that, we will learn over a period of time the skill of proportionate things with respect to each other, and also the constraints. So white space is right. So if you see this, I have written letters in like the height is very small, I mean, comparatively, and there is a lot of space around that. So I'm using the white space around the text and also reduce the space or kerning between the letters. So that kind of creates a feeling of spaciousness, right? So that again becomes a expressive typography. So type as such is not doing anything, but the way we play with the space or empty blank space around it is what creates the drama. If I have to give another example of white space,
Yes.
right, or right. Now it is not just that we leave the space open. It is also about how do we fill up the entire space. Um, like this. So I'm playing with the thickness and the white space. Yes, I have written constraint over here. Right. So basically, by using each and every pixel or no blank space of that bounding box, I am actually kind of creating that scene. What else can be there? So no space. So especially when doing this kind of thing, wherein we are not leaving any space around, normally what we do is, we are pretty lenient in terms of leaving out enough space around the text blocks. And that's what creates, kind of has that restraint in us. So as courageous typography goes, pick up a pen, or if you have a marker, pick that up, and then try filling up the entire page. So let's do this. If you have a blank page, fill that blank page with just the letters of your name. Only one single letter of your name. So let's say if I have to write, um, right, and I said only single letters, and placement can be anything. Okay, and follow any pattern that you like. But just go really big. What you can also do is, if you are not able to kind of draw a bold block like that, you can also kind of write in single line. Let's say I'm writing and then start adding the blocks as we learned earlier, the boundary around it. And it's okay if it overlaps, that's completely fine. The idea is to take out the fear of trying to being look like neat and clean. You want to kind of go out of that barrier. And then we can actually fill it up. Right, the full thing. All right, so that was about using white space. First one about spacing between the letters. Second, spacing around the word. Third is not leaving any space itself around the word or in the bounding box. Okay, now there is also something called negative space. So what it means is, let's say whatever bounding block we have, and this is just for the demonstration, we can actually have an imaginary bounding box also, right? So that one, and we write some letter, let's say, I'll directly write A as a block, B, and then instead of filling up the letter itself, we fill up the space that's around it. So that's called making use of the negative space. And you will see good examples of use of negative space in many company logos. Right, so one good example is NID logo. NID, which is the Design Institute in Ahmedabad. So I is not there, and it makes use of the negative space that's available to form a letter. There is also a Gestall's principle visual design principle which is at play over here. Okay, I'll keep it open for you to kind of find it out. All right, and the last one is orientation of the letters. So till now we have seen that we have written letters all in same orientation, all standing straight upright. But let's be little naughty over here. No, not all of us want to be in the same line, same queue, standing straight. No, let's try to see how kids stand in the queue while they are in the queue, but they might not be stationary. So if I have to write Kumar, right? Changing the orientation so that the shape of the letter stays in a way that we are able to decipher what that letter is. Okay, so I will change the orientation of each letter. And then adding some lines around it kind of shows that there is a lot going on, or there is a lot of movement that's going on for each. So orientation can be for each letter, or it can be for the entire word itself. Like that. Okay, so that's about expressive typography. We learned height, experimenting with height, experimenting with thickness, experimenting with space, and that can be between letters, which is called kerning, around the word, and also something called negative space, which is how can we like fill up the space around and not the letter itself. And then finally, orientation. Okay, so now with this, let's practice 1 or 2 words, and then I'll hand over to Samir. Okay, so maybe the first word that we can experiment with is the prompt of the day itself, which is bounce. Oh, one more thing, I forgot this. How to kind of derive, like what kind of parameter do we apply to our expressive typography? So whenever a word comes, right, just the way we have done in anthropomorphism, as well as earlier, what is the picture that you see? Let's say when bounce come, what does come to your mind? A ball, right? So picture a ball in your head and then see what the nature of that object is. How does it behave, right? How does it look? Maybe in different conditions. And what is the texture or material of it like? Is it smooth? Is it having grains? And relate these things to height, thickness, orientation, and space. And ball can be of different sizes, like bouncing ball, like volleyball, football, sponge ball, right? So one is how do we kind of bring that nature of ball in this one? So how do we show bounds? So maybe for showing bounds, and this is totally my interpretation, I have written letters at different, they are not in the same line. And to show bounds, I draw one ground and then add few lines below the letters to kind of show that the bounds. And we can also show dotted line below that to show what is their trajectory, right? Cool. What is the other letter that you would like to try and we can experiment?
Joy.
Joy, okay. So what comes to your mind when you think of joy?
Sun.
Sun, okay. For me, it is ice cream. Uh, and no, nowadays I have fallen in love with Biscoff cheesecake. So that brings joy to me. Like not the only things, but yes, it definitely does. So that's what I think of when I think of joy. So let's try to imagine or work out just by using typography how joy can be done. And what do I do when I or what? So these are the objects or these are the things that come to your mind when you think of joy. But what is the behavior like when you feel the joy? So that's a second level. So first one is objects, things. Yeah, Ankur.
No, not me.
Okay. Smile. Yeah. Blushes. Open arm. Right. So by using this, maybe couple of expressive typography that I can think of is right. So this becomes one. Second is because it says open arms, right? Like I'm jumping. And then so joy also has a nature which is like pleasant, right? So it feels pleasant or it feels happy, right? And what do we do? So these are feelings and then behavior. So open arm is actually a behavior. Smile is actually a behavior. So we talked about thickness, right? Even in thickness, we can actually experiment or you can think of that like all the types that we have written, they are having edge, like sharp edges. So let's say joy, if I have to write, but we can change these sharp corners, right? These ones to having a radius or some curvature. So maybe to begin with, I'll with very faint hand write the letter in block, and then when I'm kind of finalizing that with thick lines, I'll add curves. So all the corners will have some radius. Yeah. Hey, I think of donut by looking at this. That can also become a sign of joy. Okay. So yeah, that's about it for expressive typography. Any other questions you want me to address?
I have one question. So, like you created joy in two ways, right? But so we can use we can add some illustrations also into it, but that should look like typography or something. Some letter should be there, right? Like
Yeah.
O has a sun, but it has illustration also.
Yes. So no, take it in different fidelity, I would say, right? So that's where so how comfortable are you to experiment with text is where the fidelity will come into picture. So the first one is writing simple word or text, okay? And then adding lines or shapes around it, simple shapes, right? So when I say joy, if I add few blocks like that, it kind of shows some celebration or no. Or you can go ahead with adding objects. So just the way we have been doing so far, which is just write the text, right? Whatever the prompt is, okay? And then around that, draw an object which kind of supports that thing. So something that the object is playing around with the text block itself. And the third fidelity or high fidelity, I would say, is playing with the shape of the text itself.
Okay.
Right. So going by literal meaning of expressive typography, it is this one. But when we are starting on this journey, learning expressive typography, we start with simple things like just write that prompt and add basic shapes around that. If you think of an object and you draw an object so that, so let's say if I have to write joy, um, I would draw something like this. And then have joy held as a placard. Right. So this is also a simple thing like angry if we want to show angry face. Okay. And then have a placard held in hand which kind of says angry. Right. This is very pretty straightforward. But the idea is that the text block or the letters or the word should be directly connected with the object. Right. So you have done it nicely in anthropomorphism last. Right. So yeah, we can do that also. Yeah, but this is the state that we intend to reach. Okay. And yeah, of course, colors are amazing, bring a lot of expressions. So love, anger, hunger, sadness.
Yesterday only I bought another stationery. I thought let's start March with new stationery.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Kumar.
Cool. So if okay. All right. Looks like Kanupriya has to leave, and it's also going to be almost 10. So Samir, what do you think? How long will it take? If you need more time, maybe we can do it next week.
Yeah, we can do that next week. So I have like gathered 17 slides. So maybe 10
Oh.
slides will be there.
All right. Okay, cool then. Let's meet next week. We still have 7 minutes left, so no, we can spend sharing our experiences or any struggles, challenges, and any help that anybody needs. Help each other.
See, I have one question actually, Kumar, like here. So when it comes to this expressive typography, right? The kind of the images or the kind of like the objects we selected, right? Let's say for joy we selected ice cream or like maybe the donut, right? I think it will also have the impact on the audience based on their experience. Maybe what we feel as something may not be same as what they might feel, right? So
It becomes subjective. I totally agree. It becomes subjective. And I was imagining about this when I was drawing donut. I thought of it as joy, but somebody who is fitness freak, they will see it as unhealthy thing. So may not be joy, but a wrong thing. So yeah, it's
yeah.
totally interpreted in from the perspective that they are coming through.
So what would be the best way then? I mean, is it like, I mean, when we know the audience, I mean, then based on that, we should take a call, right?
No, I would say totally do it for your own self, not for the audience to begin with. When you're learning, you are doing it for yourself, right? You are not doing for anybody else. So I would say develop that style first, like how to express the word in the type or the letters itself. And once we have kind of mastered that, then we kind of know can take perspective. Like if I want to communicate, like if you see Time magazine front cover pages, they experiment a lot with type. So when we want to communicate something to a larger audience in a strong way, expressive typography comes very handy. And that actually helps us to put our point across, like our perspective, right? So, okay,